Good afternoon. We did it yesterday. Somebody gave me the flow chart. Good afternoon. Did you read the first 3 chapters? Like I told you to do? Oh, if you didn't, I'm not even going to ask. Not even going to ask. I don't want to put anyone on the. By the way, speaking of the bad list, okay? Y'all have phones, right? So there is a switch on your phone that makes it not make noise. Okay. There's also a switch on your phone that there's an on-off thing. You ever done that with your phone? You can actually turn it off. I love turning my phone off. It's one of my favorite things in the whole wide world to do. I'm going to be here for a little over an hour. You can turn your thing to the off switch. Okay. And here's our agreement. If anyone's phone makes a noise, a ringing noise, a bird tweeting noise, any noise comes from your phone, you have to donate $50 to my favorite charity. Okay. If you want to know, my favorite charity today is the Ed Rush Gets a Nice Meal at the Airport charity. So I'm going to have a nice meal at the Knoxville Airport. So your $50 will go directly to my favorite charity called Ed Rush Gets a Nice Meal at the Airport. All right, so let's get going. So there's one thing every fighter pilot wants to do, which is to fight a MiG-29. If you're familiar with how the Russian jet structure goes, there are better airplanes than the MiG-29, but there's not one that's more proliferated. So basically the best airplane in the most numbers that was made by the Russians is the MiG-29. So when I was flying F-18s, basically all of our air-to-air training, we simulated that we were flying against MiG-29s, the fighter that we were most likely to fight against in combat. And we always wanted to fight against one because that would be the height of your career. But you never could, and the reason you never could is because Russia owned those, and we don't do training with Russia, for some obvious reasons. However, there was this country called East Germany that eventually just became Germany. And East Germany had a squadron of MiG-29s. Those actually got folded into the German Air Force. And so one weekend, my squadron flew to Las Vegas. The German squadron was in Las Vegas, and we actually did a whole series of training missions with the MiG-29s. And we were fighting against the Air Force, so it was us and the MiG-29s fighting against the Air Force.
Wasn't even a fair fight.
But no, it wasn't. But there were several of the members of our squadron who got to go fight a dogfight one-on-one against the MiG-29. And it was my commanding officer did because he was in charge. And then our training officer did because he's the one who teaches everybody all the training stuff. And then there was one other pilot who was going to get to do that. And you may be guessing who that third person was. But at the time, I was the youngest guy in my squadron. I was the youngest, the newest, least experienced. I was young, dumb, and inexperienced, but I wasn't even wise enough to know I was young, dumb, and I'm talking about that phase right there. But what I did know is that my commanding officer liked to drink a lot, and normally someone in the squadron sort of had to handle him, to be make sure he makes it home kind of thing. And on that particular night, I thought, well, this would be a good job for me. And so 2 o'clock in the morning, my skipper and I, everyone else is gone. My commanding officer and I are sitting at the bar in Las Vegas, and he looks over at me, and he says, "Head, you are going to fight MiG-29 tomorrow." And I was like, "Could you just repeat that for me one time, just to make sure?" He says, "You're going to fight tomorrow. You're going to fight a MiG." And I said, "Could you just repeat that one more time? I just want to make sure you remember it as much as I remember." And true to his word, no consequence how inebriated he was. True to his word, the next day I went out to fight a one-on-one dogfight against the MiG-29. Now to set this dogfight up, the MiG-29 airplane, as much as I hate to admit it, is a better performing airplane in the dogfight than the F-18. In terms of turn rate, which is how fast you can turn, it's better. In terms of turn radius, in terms of how quick and tight it can turn, it's better. And its missile systems at the time, we've corrected this, but its missile systems at the time, they had a helmet-mounted cueing system, which meant that the pilot could look across, cue the target with his helmet, and shoot a missile essentially using his helmet. We didn't, at the time, have that technology. We do now. The F-18, in comparison, was a slower airplane, less power, not as good of a turn radius, not as good of a turn rate, and we could only shoot our missiles forward quarter, at least the infrared missiles. And so he had an advantage in terms of the airframe. The second advantage is he had been flying this airplane for about 20 years. I had been flying my airplane for about 2 months, okay? And there was only one advantage I had. Actually, there were really two. One advantage Airplane advantage is in a slow speed engagement, the F-18 is actually better, easier to control. Will fly a lot slower, and in certain dogfights, that's particularly helpful. So to set this dogfight up, the way that we typically do our dogfights is both airplanes start next to each other, about 1.5 miles, turn away, accelerate, and then come in, and when we pass each other right here, usually the lead pilot, which in this case with the MiG-29, will call fights on. At fights on, that means the fights on. And then wherever you turn, whatever you do, whoever shoots each other first wins. It's kind of the way that it works, man against man, okay? So we turned, we accelerated, we came on, fights on, passed about 500 miles an hour, which is close enough to see the whites of your own eyes. As we pass each other, we're each going about 500 miles an hour, so it's about 1,000 miles an hour worth of closure. Fast, 2 airplanes passing each other, very close, very fast. And all of a sudden the MiG-29 turns and goes nose high, I turn and go nose high. The MiG-29 pulls about 8 Gs, I pull about 8 Gs. Just so you know what a G is, that's a multiple of your body weight. So if you are sitting here at 200 pounds and you pull 8 Gs, you're now 1,600 pounds, okay? That is 8 of you on top of you, to put it into another perspective. All your face starts to pull down, your blood starts to pull into your lower extremities, and what's worse is as you're turning, he's turning this way, I'm turning this way, you actually have to look over your shoulder to see the airplane behind you. So it's a pretty extreme physical moment, and I'm pulling for all I'm worth, he's pulling for all he's worth, because whoever gets inside typically will win the dogfight, because as you can see, if I move inside, I'm able to shoot him. If he moves inside, he's able to shoot me. And we pass each other completely neutral now, and again at 500 feet, but this case, both planes will slow down a little bit. He's at about 250 miles an hour, I'm at about 250 miles an hour as we pass each other right here. Just so you know, it's a miracle that I'm not dead so far, okay? Just the fact that I've gotten this far and executed this first maneuver was a win, frankly, in my book, for as young and dumb and inexperienced as I am. What happens right after that blew my mind, which is as soon as we pass each other, the MiG-29 now goes directly nose low. Now, just to tell you, that is a big mistake. It is literally the only mistake he could have made. He could have gone right, he could have gone left, he could have gone nose high, but as he turned, he gave this 2-second window for the F-18 in its sweet spot. Remember, the F-18 is really good where? Slow speed. I'm approaching my sweet spot. The F-18 in its sweet spot can do something called a pirouette. To put it into perspective, what a pirouette is you pull your nose aggressively nose high. You literally slow down as much airspeed as you can. You take your stick, pull it all the way to the right, rudder all the way to the right, which is your foot, and the airplane literally goes 180 degrees just like that. It will completely turn 180, which normally takes a few seconds, and it'll do it in like a half second, okay? So the MiG-29 goes nose low, and I have a 2-second window. And I can hear my instructor in my head, my instructor, whose name I can't even remember, my instructor, Lieutenant something, my instructor says, hey, Head, when you see a MiG-29 go nose low at a slow speed merge, pull your nose up, pirouette to the right, take an aim-9 shot. Pull your nose up, pirouette to the right, take an aim-9 shot. Pull your nose up, pirouette to the right, and I practice it over and over again, flying against a bunch of F-18s. But as the MiG-29 goes nose low at a slow speed merge, and I have a 2-second window, do you know what I did? Anyone want to guess? Pull my nose, pirouette, take an aim-9 shot. Boom, next thing you know, I'm looking out of the center of my cockpit at a MiG-29 in my heads-up display. Now, just so you know, this is all videoed. So we have a video camera that points directly out of the front of the F-18, and it's all on tape, okay? So you can show it to all of your friends, which I'm about to tell you about that in a second. He turns, I come in for the guns, which means I won. Okay, so severely undermanned pilot, severely under-experienced pilot, but just had a small window of advantage that I took advantage of. Okay, I'm going to talk about that in a second. So I go back to my squadron, and the first question they ask as I walk in was what? How did you do? Okay, and just, you know, no one was expecting great things from me that day. They were just expecting that I would learn some things. You know, sometimes you learn when you lose. And what I did was I simply put the videotape into the machine, and I pushed play at the right spot, and then I just backed up, and all 18 pilots now gather around the screen. And they can see the pass, and they can see the plane go high, and then they can see the MiG-29 come below me, and they can see me pull my nose up, and then they can see me pull my nose down, and then all of a sudden there's a MiG-29 on a pause screen sitting in front of this reticle. And the lead training guy in my squadron, whose call sign was Goody, he turns around and he goes, dude, you're a hero. That's the first words out of his mouth. He said, dude, you're a hero. Now, I was young and dumb and inexperienced, okay? So I didn't know, at the time, I didn't know the hero rules. You know the hero rules, okay? So hero rules go like this. If somebody says you're a hero, you're supposed to do what? You're supposed to deny it, and then you're supposed to say, I was just doing what anyone would have done in that situation. Like, I think every time someone saves, like, there's someone in traffic, and they push them out of the way, and they don't get hit by a bus, and the person goes, you are a hero. The news is like, you're a hero. And the guy's like, I'm just everyday man. I'm just doing what anyone would have done in that situation, right? When that guy Sully, you remember Sully, the pilot, US Air, right? Flight 155, Sully takes off, airplane engines die, he lands on the Hudson, and all those people, right? All those people get out safely. It was a miracle, right? A miracle on the Hudson. And they're like, Sully, people are saying that you're a hero. People are saying you're a hero. Remember what he said? I'm not a hero. I only did what anyone would have done. Just so you know, everyone would have crashed. Okay, everybody would have crashed. He's like, I would have done what anyone would have done in that situation. Okay, so my lead training officer turns around and looks at me and he says, dude, you are a hero. And I went, I know. That was totally true. I not agree with you at all. I don't agree with you said it's true. I didn't know the hero rules. I'm just saying, I was too young. I didn't know. Okay? So I learned I was supposed to, I just had good training. I credit, all the credit goes to you, for training me. I thank you, Lord, for giving me the gifts. None of that even crossed my mind, okay? And so all you have to do is watch college football. You know what I'm saying? All you have to do is watch college football, and if you win, you're like, I just thank the Lord for the good gift of this win. No one ever blames when they lose. You notice that? They always blame the offensive line or something like that. But if you win, I should have just been like, thank you for all the good gifts. But I didn't. I didn't know the rules. All right, second thing you should know is when you fight and beat a May 29, you don't have to buy drinks that night. Did you know that? When you go to the bar in Las Vegas, it is all free, okay? And I have a simple rule, and that simple rule goes, if someone wants to buy you a drink, you let them, okay? And that was the second thing that I learned. And the third thing that I learned was a lesson I still hold today. This is what I'm going to share with you, which is this. When the window of opportunity opens up, you take it. You know what I'm saying? You don't ask questions. You don't say, why me? Why me? Why would this happen to me? You don't think about it. You've already been trained, right? You don't have to review the procedure. When the window of opportunity comes up, you take it. You take the shot. Does that make sense? When the window of opportunity opens up, you take the shot. So when you spend 3 days in a room like this, you're doing what I was doing when I was training to fight against the May 29, which is training. You're equipping yourself. You're getting better. So that when you're sitting down next to somebody and the window of opportunity opens up, you do what? You take the shot. When the window of opportunity opens up, you take the shot, okay? So for just a little bit today, I'm going to talk about two different things. I'm going to talk about money. I promised you yesterday I'm going to talk a little bit about money, and then I'm going to talk to you about this concept of being a welcome guest instead of what? Remember what I said yesterday? A welcome guest versus a annoying pest. I'm going to talk about the way to market effectively your product. But before I do that, let me just say autobiographically a couple things. First of all, it's been a blast being here for the last 2 days. I will just say fully autobiographically, Scott knows this, when I come in and get paid to speak at an event, which this was not a charity thing for me. I was doing this because this is part of what I do for a business, okay? And Scott and I have been friends for a while. He said, would you come speak? We worked out a deal that worked for everyone, but it wasn't like I just came here. Normally when I come to speak, I fly in, I go to the event place, I give my talk, and I fly home, right? There's nothing against any of those events. Like I just spoke at the West Virginia Hospital Association, and the West Virginia Hospital Association for like 3 days, they're talking about like hospital stuff. It's not like I want to sit there for 3 days. I think they're amazing, don't get me wrong. But I'm like, I don't need to know, the latest sterilization procedures and stuff like that. I'm going to come in, I'm going to do my talk, high five some people, sign some books, fly home. But when this event came around, I knew this was important. By the way, I told you yesterday about some conversations with God that I had with Scott. I also had some conversations about this event. And I knew this event was important for me personally, because what I learned over the last couple days, just fully transparently, was what I've been looking for a really long time. Okay, and I will say both to your benefit and also to your detriment or opportunity. Here's what I mean by this. First of all, I've been looking for an opportunity like the one that you provide. I already told Scott. I'm like, I am in. I told him that like weeks ago. Okay, I've been looking for this for a really long time. And second, I didn't know about it, and I know about almost everything when it comes to the business space, okay? You see what I'm saying here? So first things first, the product that you have is extraordinary and people need it. Now they don't necessarily want it just yet, right? But it's not like a common part of the United States business owner language. Hey, you into infinite banking? Most people don't even know what that is yet. Okay, so I'm saying kind of to your detriment because nobody knows about it, and also to what? Your opportunity, okay? Because there's some things coming down the pike here in the next maybe 4 or 5 years when it comes to the banking system that will open people's eyes. You've already seen that about 8 months ago. Remember when the banks started having all these problems? Like, how could this happen? We should trust the banks. Maybe you shouldn't. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they should fail. I have some personal angst in this issue. Can I tell you a story? I'll tell you a story. You guys just don't tell anyone the story. I know we're videoing and everything. Can I tell you a story, a bank story? So when I started my business in 2006, I opened up an account with this bank, this nefarious, awful, okay, crooked bank, being led by nefarious, awful, and crooked people. And because I'm talking so bad about this organization, I will just give it a name. Okay, I'm not even going to say what the name is. I'm just going to say, what was the name yesterday you gave? ABC Bank. But in this case, the A doesn't mean anything, and the B doesn't mean anything, but the C does, because this bank's first letter starts with C. It starts with a C, and it rhymes with Chase. Okay, so I'm just telling you, this awful organization, nefarious people, I'm not going to tell you who it is. It just sounds like that, okay? So when I started my business, I did what I was supposed to do, which is I started opening up a business bank account, okay? And then that business, that bank said, oh, since you have a business, you're going to need a merchant account. You know what a merchant account is? So you can run credit cards, right? So this company, this ABC Bank company, is like, you should have a merchant account. And I already knew what a merchant account was, and I already had one. But I was like, I'll use this because this is the bank that I'm using, okay? And then about a year later, I sold in a single day. It was an event actually like this. And I was offering a little coaching program. I teach and coach entrepreneurs. I was offering a little coaching program at an event like this. And I sold $76,400 worth of transactions in a single talk, 1 hour talk, which is a really good 1 hour, just so you know. It's like a good hour talk. $76,400. And then I had my team who processed all those things through that merchant account, right? So they send it all through the merchant account. And the way a merchant account operates is they process all the cards, they take all the money, and then they put all the money in your bank account. They do take a fee. And I don't have an issue with the fee. I just know that's a price of doing business. There's some risk involved on their part. I get that. So they take a little fee, they put the rest in your bank account. So at any given time, I was expecting, $75,500 or whatever to show up in my bank account. Like 2 days go by, and like 3 days go by, 4 days go by, and I still was expecting that $75,000 because you know the difference. Like when you look at the account, you'll know it has gone up by that much, and it hadn't. And then finally, I reached out to this awful, corrupt organization, and I was like, hey, where's my money? Okay, and they said, your money? They didn't say those words. They said, your money? I think maybe you are talking about our money. Now, they didn't say any of those words. That's just what I heard them say when they said, we have had some questions about your transactions. And I said, all the transactions are on paper. You can see where the person signed the agreement. You can sign the contract. I sent all that stuff over to them. And then this company said to me, they said, well, we're going to hold that money. They said, we're going to hold that money for 6 months. Here's what they said, and none of this is all exactly word for word, okay? They said, because we're not comfortable with your business model, all right? Wow. Did you catch that? Wow. So just so you know, I'm teaching books, courses, online program. I'm not talking about like just a normal business. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't selling like how to make money in the porn industry or whatever. I was selling like how to grow your business stuff. You know what I'm saying? And so they said to me, they said these words. They said, we're not comfortable with your business model, okay? At which I said to them these words. I said, well, I'm not comfortable with your business model. I literally, next words out of my mouth, I said, I'm not comfortable with your business model, okay? I called a friend of mine I had met at a previous event who ran a merchant account company. I said, Marvin, I need a merchant account now. Like, I need one now. I said, do all the paperwork, whatever you need to do. I need you to set me up and just get it set up. And I had that merchant account set up in 2 days. A day later, I refunded every transaction, every single transaction, reached out to all the customers. I said, just so you know, you'll see a refund on your credit card for the amount that you paid, and then 2 days later, once that clears, you're going to see the charge again. We had a little trouble with our bank, but you're good to go. We're going to take care of you, and we gave them a little bonus. I refunded $75,000 from that awful, nefarious, corrupt organization, and I charged $75,000 more back into a different organization. And in that moment, I was like, I'm done with this group of people, okay? And I decided that I was going to stick it to the man. And my approach to sticking it to the man was I was going to make so much money that it wouldn't matter, right? That I could just fund whatever I wanted to. And the reason I'm telling you this entire story is because my vision of, I was going to have $10 or $100 million, something like that, sitting over here someplace that I would just pay for all my stuff using that so I wouldn't have to utilize the services of that particular organization, right? The same organization that would take, like, my average balance would be like $100,000. But then if I wanted a line of credit for $100,000, you start to do the math. You're like, wait a second. I gave you $100,000 to sit there, but then if you want to give me $100,000, you're like, it's like 9%. What did I miss here? What did I miss on the math situation? And so I decided in 2007, when that all went down, I said I want to find a different way. And up until like literally this event, and actually I read your mentor's book when Scott sent it to me. I didn't understand that there was another option. And just so you know, I've taught business owners my whole life, okay? And I will just say, I'm a believer in what you do, okay? It is essentially the answer to the question that I had outside of being worth $100 million, and I understand you can still use it when you have $100 million. My point is, what you have is extraordinary. It gives people an option out of, and I don't mean to say it so awful, I just don't like them, I don't like who they are. I don't like who they represent. When Jamie Dimon, I'm just speaking from the heart. When I see him get interviewed, I'm like, when you get like when you talk to somebody, what I'm saying? Like, when you talk to somebody that's really weird or creepy, and you're like, and your whole body like, every time he talks on TV, I'm like, what is that? What is that? And my whole thing is like, I don't want to give them any more money. And now I see that there's another option. Okay, so I'm just speaking to you as a customer from the heart. And I told Scott, I told him on the lunch break, I'm like, I'm committed to helping you guys accomplish your mission, all right? I teach entrepreneurs. So I do events, I do big events around the country, and I teach entrepreneurs primarily nowadays how to ask God questions about their business and get answers. But I teach marketing, and communication, and persuasion, and copywriting, and productivity, and I am going to start telling them about you, okay? So like, you're coming. I don't care if you want to or not. You're coming. So, and we'll work out a deal that's beneficial for everyone, but I'm just saying, like, my folks need to know about what you have. It needs to be part of the common discussion that's happening in the country, particularly with people who have businesses, because people who have businesses money moves, and I'm not saying it's not for everyone, I'm just saying for someone like that, it's really important. So number one, I believe in what you do, and number two, I'm a little shocked and surprised that it's not as popular as it is quite yet, and that's your opportunity. There's your window of opportunity. I'm going to talk a little bit more about how to take advantage of that as we go. Does that make sense? It does say hoorah. Hoorah. By the way, think about it remember I said yesterday, I said your job is not to be what on your way to success? Remember what I said? You got to remember. I said I was talking about Scott and I sitting in first class. Remember I said don't be what? Don't be cheap on your way to success. Remember when I said that? Okay. I want you to think about this from his perspective. So I have an email list of about 35,000 people. Probably about 20,000 of them are entrepreneurs. I do events, 500 people show up that are all entrepreneurs. I have a coaching program that people pay me anywhere from $25,000 to $47,000. Most are at the $25,000 level. Most people pay me $25,000 to work with them one-on-one through the year. I have 40 people in that coaching program. Okay, so like, just if somebody can afford to pay somebody $25,000 to help them in their business, they have money, And I told Scott, I'm like, you're coming. I'm doing a meeting with all those folks in May. I'm like, you should be there, because if I tell my coaching members the story I just told you, and then I follow it with a little bit of an understanding about how infinite banking works, which now I finally understand. I can explain it in like 5 minutes now. I know how to explain it to an entrepreneur to help them understand. And by the way, anytime that you can, this is a side point regards to communication. Anytime that you can create a big enemy out of what I call a big amorphous blob, you will be successful, okay? So like, for example, what did I just do? You already know that, the enemy, but what is the enemy in that story? bank. I actually put a little personality into it, which I don't normally do, like name the guy, you know? I don't normally do the guy, but what happens when you project against a big amorphous blob is you oftentimes ally the customer on your side whether or not they agree with it or not, right? So for example, what's a great big amorphous blob that you can always position against? The government. There's a perfect one, the government. But the IRS is the government. You can always, nobody's like, but I like the IRS, you know? I did this whole, at my last event, 250 people, I did this whole rant on the IRS, okay? Like, I am not a fan, you know? I do appreciate the fact that in our country, you can tell them what you owe them. I think that's nice. Some countries don't let you do that. I'm just telling you the part that I like. I don't like the way the system works. I mean, the way that I look at it, depending on the bracket, you know, you could be paying 35, 37%. I live in California. Top bracket in California is 13, over 13%. So that means you could be paying 50% if you don't know what you're doing with the thing, right? You could be paying 50% of your income to the official government mafia or whatever you want to call it. But like, I don't have good things to say, just so you know. There's not, other than they let you tell it. I do appreciate the fact that they let you tell them, because when you get to tell, if you know what you're doing, you get to tell them, right? So I did this whole rant.
You go to jail.
So yeah. Although at first, I will just say though, I was audited. I did get audited once. And at first, all they do is send you like a lot of letters. You know what I'm saying? So if you get it wrong, you may go to jail, but at first you're just gonna get a lot of mail. For years, you're gonna get mail, a lot of mail, you know? And I don't mean to make light of it, I'm just sort of just telling you. Anyway, so the IRS is like a big one. I did this whole rant at my event about the IRS, and everyone's, you know, hoorah. And then one lady went up to my team. My team's like always in the back. One lady went to my team and said, he shouldn't talk about the IRS like that. He shouldn't talk about the IRS like that. And my team said, you know, this lady, they wouldn't tell me who, said, you know, he shouldn't talk about the IRS like that. And I said, you know, one thing you know about that woman, I don't know who it is, but there's one thing you know about that person. Do you know what it is? She's never worked in the IRS. She's never made any money, okay? Because the moment you write a check, you know what I'm saying? The moment you write a check. So in 2009 was the first year I went into 7-figure range. That year I wrote a $91,000 check to the single check. That wasn't my whole tax burden. That was like one of the payments, you know what I mean? And I called my accountant and I said, I had a copy machine that used to sit in my office. Don't think bad of me for this story. I'm just telling you the story, okay? This is like just being raw and transparent here. I don't think this way often, just sometimes. I say, hey Bob, I said, I'm gonna put my middle finger on the copy machine and push copy, and I'm gonna send that in with my check. That is exactly what I said. I said, I'm gonna put my middle finger on the copy machine, press copy, and send that with the check. And he's like, don't, whatever you do, don't. I said, I'm gonna do it. I'm pushing copy right now. He's like, don't do it. I said, send the middle finger. I didn't send the middle finger, you see that. But you know, sometimes you feel like that. And so I said, the thing you know about that person is she's never written a check. Once you write a check, and you're like, you feel like you just got like,
yeah.
you know. So here's the way I look at it,
right? Or sign the front of the check. Either one of them.
So
You start signing the front of the check, you look at it differently.
100%. So here's the way I look at it. All right. So someday I'm going to be president. I'm not kidding about that. Appendix D. Read Appendix D in the book. So the church, you know what the tithe is, right? Tithe is a short for tenth. That means it's how much percent? And I just told you that the government sometimes will ask for up to 50%. So what that means is that they think that they're 5 times more influential and powerful than God himself, okay? So my philosophy of government is the number should never be above 9% because it's just a little bit below. You can see the difference? Yeah. Right there. So whether that's a sales tax, which is probably what it should be, it should never be above 10. That's my goal. One of my goals as president is to fix that whole situation, okay? Maybe we should spend less than we bring in. I don't know, that's probably a good start too. Where was I? I was talking about, big blobs. Big more, so government, IRS, banks, you can stick them over there. You know what I'm saying? You can stick them right there because nobody has an affinity. Now, there's a woman that works at my local branch in San Diego. Her name is Suli. I've known her for like 10 years. I like her, right? It's just the organization I'm not thrilled with. You know, so you don't put a person into it like I did. You just target the organization. But I'm just telling you, you have a very powerful marketing tool because you're already leveraging someone else's angst against that particular organization. Does that make sense? If it does, say hoorah. Hoorah. All right, cool. So I'm going to get cranking and just teach you. I'm going to talk about two main things. I'm going to talk about money for just a little bit, and then I'll talk a little bit about some marketing stuff, and then we'll wrap it up. I'm like right before Scott, and then Scott wraps up the day, and then we're off and running. I'll give you a way before I get done on how to contact me. I don't normally do this, but I do want to stay connected to you. Just keep it. I'm going to give you my email address. Just keep that between us, okay? Because I do not give that out at my events or anything like that, for real. That is the one. It comes right to me. You can write it down if you want. Coaching, COACHING @edrush.com. It's coaching@edrush.com. That doesn't go through an assistant or anything like that. If you email come on my website and email me, it'll eventually get to me. It'll take a while. It'll go through a whole filter system, but it'll get to me eventually. But if you email that, I'll get it pretty much right away. Okay. And you don't have to email me. I'm just giving it to you so that it's a resource for you and available for you down the road. All right, so the book that you have in front of you, or that you had in front of you, is called God Talks. And it tells a little bit about my entrepreneurial journey. I told a little bit of the story yesterday. My experience, just so you know, so I grew up in the traditional church. I'm still a member, okay, of the traditional church. I go to a regular old church, like a non-denominational kind of church, okay? I have not left the faith, although quite a bit of what I do when I teach, especially to business owners, I tell them what I teach them is biblical truth that sounds a lot like heresy at first. And the reason that I say it that way is because quite a bit of what I do is push people out of the typical comfort zones when it comes to thinking about business and money. If you're a business owner, or if you're in sales like you are, or really both, your understanding of money is one of the most important things you can have. And I will just tell you, to our detriment, the church has been particularly bad at writing a software code into people's mind that is not beneficial for them, nor for the church, nor for the world, okay? And I'm just going to go at it. I'm going to ask you just for some permission to just talk about a topic that typically people don't like me talking about. But I'm going to go there, and if you just give me enough time to walk through it, you'll come out of the other end and you'll see what I'm talking about. You with me on that? If you are, say hoorah. I may say something that is a little offensive, okay? I may say something that pushes a little bit on what you have been taught to believe or what other people have been taught to believe. Just let me go. Let me go through this, and I will just tell you what I'm teaching you, I believe with all my heart. And I think it is the single thing that is keeping us from being excellent in the world right now. And I'll give you one example. One of my goals, in addition to becoming president, is to buy Disney, okay? To literally buy the entire Disney Corporation. And I've been talking about it enough that we're already starting to build a group of people who are coalescing together to accomplish that objective. Now, why would you want to buy a company like Disney, right? Disney owns Disney, all the theme parks. They own ABC, they own ESPN, and then another 100 companies. So you're talking about the world's Pixar, like the world's biggest media company, okay? And for years, some really good people were like, we should boycott Disney, okay? We should boycott Disney. And Disney didn't care, okay? Actually, it almost, in a sense, you know how you feel a little, when you're persecuted for your righteousness, you're like, I feel like I'm standing up for myself, right? Just so you know, when the Rush family, so we go to Disneyland, okay? We like to go to Disneyland. I'm just saying, we live in San Diego. I got a 5-year-old, okay? We go to Disneyland. But let's say we decided to boycott Disney. There's 6 of us. There's 6 of us. Do you think up at Disney Central, they're like, oh no, the Rush family, do you think that's a problem for them? No. Okay, so they're not going to change the way that they're communicating. They're not going to change their value system. They're not going to change the kind of movies that they create. But let me just tell you, if you're in charge, if you own the actual company, they might. Do you see where I'm going with that? And a lot of times we, in the traditional sort of either the church world or we think like this. We think like the victim, okay, and we're just going to fight against this big thing that we're fighting against, instead of just saying, why don't we just win? Why don't we just acquire the entire thing and win? So one of the goals of this coalition I'm putting together is we want to buy Disney. We want to buy the New York Times. That'd be awesome. want to buy CNN or whatever's left of it by the time that we get to it. All those companies, by the way, are doing us a wonderful favor, which is they're just ruining their company on the way to us buying it. So the stock's not getting better, you know what I mean? It's just simply getting worse. But part of the reason we haven't done it yet, okay, there's really two main reasons. The first reason I'm not going to talk about other than just to mention it, which is a lot of times good people are late adopters to technology, right? So good people are like, the internet, well, that's going to ruin the world. Social media, well, that's going to ruin the world. And then 20 years later, after Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok are dominating the world, somebody goes and creates like the Christian Facebook, and they're like, come and join my Christian Facebook where it's only us, you know? And you're like, how about you get in a time machine and go back 20 years and create Facebook? You know what I'm saying? Because your Christian Facebook is not interesting. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't use that now because I'm trying to reach the whole world. I can't use your little thought bubble over here. I got to use this one that I'm still paying to do ads on, which drives me crazy because we don't have a time machine where I can go back 20 years and be able to create that. And so when AI came out, I started telling my people, I'm like, get good at this now. Don't say it's going to ruin the world. I watched Terminator 2 just like you did, okay? It's not, okay? It is simply a tool. It is a code created by a coder. It's a code that was created by a coder. You can learn a lot about the coder by understanding the code. Like when you see all the bias that's in it, you're like, that's because the code, like, it's a code, okay? It does think. It's not planning on taking over the world. It doesn't even know what that means, okay? It's just running a software code. Side note, one of my favorite, and no offense, by the way, if you happen to be an atheist, I'm just telling you, one of my favorite things that's happened over the last couple of years is all of the big atheists in the tech world, like the big well-known atheists like Elon Musk, folks like that in the tech space, have all come to believe that we're living in a computer simulation. Have you ever noticed that they're all talking about like the atheists are now like we live in a computer simulation? And I thought that is the most intellectually honest an atheist can be, which is, okay, all right, someone had to code all this. Like, you know what I mean? Someone's like, I know my DNA is like a software code, and I'm a developer, so I know someone coded this. I can't acknowledge that there's a supreme being called God, so I'll just say we're in a simulation. I mean, think about that for a second. It is the most, isn't that great? It's the most intellectually honest. I really do honor that thought process. The fact that they actually got there, they're like literally one step away now from acknowledging God. It's really wonderful what's happening. But by the way, a person in software understands you don't get software without a code. That's why the whole world simply points to the nature and the goodness of God, the way that we were created. As it says, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. You only have to look at the human body to be able to see that. Okay, so what's happened is I talk about software coding a lot. Like one of the gifts that God's given me is to be able to look and literally read someone's software coding. When someone starts talking, I get to see their software. It's a fascinating gift. I use it with my entrepreneurs all the time to break through their biases about money, their biases about their customers, their unwillingness to push the sale a little bit, all this kind of things I can see when I'm working with someone. It's a really fun gift. I work, by the way, with over 600 entrepreneurs one-on-one at that high-level program, so it's a lot of people over the years, and after a while you start to see trends. You start to see people thinking in similar ways, and what I'm going to show you are some of the ways that people think. Now, you were taught that the most important thing you can do with your money is to do what? Well, at the church, you were taught what? The most important thing you can do with your money is to give it away. Okay, I was taught when I grew up in Sunday school, I was taught that I was told a story about this billionaire or millionaire, multimillionaire, his name was C.T. Studd. In Sunday school, they said this guy, he gave away 95% of his, ever heard that story? Gave away 95% and he lived on the 5%. He gave away 95% and he lived on the 5%. And I was like, oh man, that's what I want to do. That's who I want to be, you know? And it still kind of sounds great, okay? And so oftentimes I'll ask entrepreneurs, so the best thing you can do with your money is, and they'll say to give it away, and I'll say the best thing you can do with your money is whatever God tells you to do, right? So think about it this way. What would you say to a farmer who gave away all of his seed? You would call that person a fool, right? And so let's just start here. So there's something called seed. I'm giving you some ammunition to talk to the people that you're working with, okay? And there's something called fruit. With seed, there's one thing you do with seed. One thing. What do you do with seed? Plant seed, okay? So if you have seed, you plant seed. It's unwise to give away your seed. In certain cases, it's unwise even to sell all your seed. You plant your seed. Now, let's take the example of like an apple tree. My wife, we live on almost an acre in San Diego, which is a huge property for San Diego. And the whole property has transformed from sort of just regular old property into this garden. There are fruit trees everywhere. There's gardens everywhere. My wife, I'm not even kidding you. Like if I said, you know, here's $400. What do you want to get for your birthday or whatever? She would go buy plants. Okay, it's like not what I would do. She buys the plants, and I put them in the ground because not because I like digging holes, but because because I care about She does all the other stuff. I dig the hole, basically. Is the way that works. Okay, and so we have these apple trees, these 4 apple trees that have grown. And I'll sit in my office sometimes and I'll hear like thunk. And then like 10 minutes later, thunk. And the apples, this year, we had these 4 trees. They're like only about twice the size of me. I'll bet you each tree had 100, at least 100 apples. Like they just kept going, okay? So let's say the average tree, though, let's just say the average tree, apple tree has 20 apples, which is way under. But I'm just saying, let's say the average one has 20 apples. And let's say that the apple tree lives for 20 years, which is also under, but let's say it goes for 20 years at 20 pieces of fruit per year. How much fruit is that so far? Okay, you guys are awesome. Sometimes people are like, but you're in the space where you use money, okay? So people are like, okay, 20 times 20. Let's carry the 1. All right, so now each of those fruit, if you open up the fruit, there's seed inside of each apple. How many seeds do you think per apple? A lot. There's another like 20 or 30, but let's say it's 10 per apple. How many seeds do I have now? I have 4,000 seeds. Okay, now, the first thing I want you to look at is we live in a culture. This is not just the church, by the way. This is the culture. We live in a culture that thinks we're running out of everything. Like if you listen to the way the media talks, we are running. Like I was in a restaurant. I live in San Diego. I was in this restaurant overlooking the Pacific Ocean, and I was listening to these 2 women who were complaining because we're running out of water. They were like, this is a major problem. We're running out of water now. 2 things. First of all, they both left half full water glasses when they walked away after paying the bill. I thought that was very, very telling. And the second thing is this conversation was being had overlooking the world's largest, deepest, most abundant source of water, and just the intellectual blindness to be able to we're running out of that. It's very strange, but you can actually see how someone had been trained to think that way, and when you're trained to think a certain way, sometimes it closes up completely over the blinders. You can't even see. But I want you to look for a moment at this. I just told you there's 1 seed. It takes 1 seed to grow 1 tree, right? And I just told you how 1 seed actually can create over 20 years 400 pieces of fruit and 4,000 more seeds. Think about that for a minute. Think about the way God created the world, a multiplication of the world. By the way, when creatures are acting the way that God created them, and certainly when humans are acting the way that God created us, we actually create more than we consume. Like if you look at a beehive, bees will create way more than they ever could need. If you have a beehive, it'll create 10, 15 times more honey than the hive will ever use, ever. They create so much more, so much more from flowers. It's amazing what they're able to create from things that we just watch wither and die. This world that God has created is unbelievably abundant. And when you help your clients start to see this, when they see the abundance of the world that God's created, all of a sudden things begin to change for them. So there are 4 things. If you have fruit, there are 4 things you can do with fruit. Does anybody know what the 4 things are you can do with fruit? Number 1, you can eat it, and that's awesome. Number 2, you can sell it, right? Check it out. Cursed is the one who withholds grain, the proverb says, but blessed. Anybody want to finish the verse? Blessed is the one who sells it. Now, I find that interesting. Did you know that verse doesn't say, cursed is the one who withholds grain, but blessed is the one who gives it away? No. It said, blessed is the one who sells. I don't know about you, but when I grew up in the business world, in church, I didn't get told, you are so blessed when you sell. I've never heard that once. I would love it in a sermon to be like, hey, how many deals did you close this week? 3? blessed are you. So, wouldn't that be amazing? That's the verse. That's the verse. That's the verse. Jesus himself said, he said, I'm going to be about my Father's business. Not charity. By the way, nothing against charity. I think charity's amazing. Okay? But business is to solve the problems, just so you know. Just so you know, the problems on earth right now are being solved by businesses. Okay? I'm not nothing against the charities. I'm just saying the business solves problems. Jesus said I wasn't about my Father's nonprofit. He didn't say I was about my Father's foundation. He said I was about my Father's business. So Jesus and God were business partners. Jesus and the Father were business partners. Okay, so you can sell it. What else can you What else can you do? You can use it to make more seed, which essentially is to reinvest your dividends, basically. And then finally, you can do what? Give it away. Now, let me ask you a question. Let's say a client has $10 million net worth. And they say, I was in Sunday school, and I was taught that I wanted to give 95% away and live on the 5%. So they could give $9.5 million away, and they could live on $500,000, which they should be able to live on $500,000 as long as they budget themselves properly. That sounds like a really amazing thing to do, right? Until you understand that, like, for example, if you read the Bible, the kingdom multiplication numbers, does anybody know there's 3 different numbers that it talks about when it comes to multiplication? There's 3 separate stories, and they all talk about things multiplying. The first one, some of you recognize this. The first one is called the parable of the talents. You ever remember the parable of the talents? So what's a talent, by the way? Anybody know what a talent is? So it's a piece of gold. Yeah, it's a piece of gold. It was about $1 million on today's market. Piece of gold. Okay? Now, I went to Sunday school, and in Sunday school, I was not taught that it was money. Okay? This is what I was taught. See, just look, you're all so talented. Y'all have these talents. You're going to grow up. God's given you these gifts that in the world, you're just so talented, and your job is to use your talents for the Lord. Okay? Now, she didn't say, y'all been given gold, real gold. Y'all got to use that gold to multiply it. Like, didn't say it, but just so you know, that story, that parable of the talents, is not about your ability to, do a flip or throw a football or speak multiple languages. That's about what? It's about money. It's actually a story about investing. Okay, now check it out. Jesus is like, all right, there's one guy, he's got $3 million in gold, gives $1 million to this guy, $1 million to this guy, $1 million to this guy. This guy makes $10 million. This guy makes $5 million. This guy goes golfing for a year and just gives him back the $1 million. And he said, which one next year will you put your money with? Now, let me ask you a question. Which one would you put your money with? The $10 million guy. Does it matter to you his religious belief system? No. You know he's good at investing. You're going to give it to someone who's good at what they do. Just that whole story was about you. That whole story was about how good you are with taking money and turning it into more money. Okay? There's all the side applications you can make about your ability to throw football or your ability to speak multiple languages or whatever. You can make all those side points, but the original story is about money. And the original multiplication was what? 10. Okay, so the kingdom multiplication numbers start at 10. Okay? What's the next one? This is easy. 100. Okay? So there's it actually goes 30, 60, 90, 100-fold if you read the story. It says one seed falls on the ground. Some produce 30, some produce 60, some produce 90, some produce 100. And then finally there's a verse in Deuteronomy 1:11, which is literally the screensaver of my phone, that says, may God bless you 1,000 times. Okay, so which of these do you think I'm picking? Yeah, I'm going to pick 1,000. Okay, like for example, I have a company. I was early stage investor is an understatement. I was like early. Dude, one of my friends literally called me and was like, I've been praying for the last month. He does this thing called waiting on the Lord. Well, he will literally sit there until God shows up and starts giving him ideas. And he's like, God gave me an idea, and it's a tech platform. And I was like, tell me where to send the money. Literally, I am in, okay? This company just got valued at $15 million, and in about a week it'll be $25 million, okay? And I am looking at least this, by the way. At least, this already happened for me, by the way. And it's probably closer to that. Okay, that's what you can do. in today's marketplace, right? Because money, you know the deal with money. Like in 71, 72, money basically became like made up. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not, like I'll talk about this. We were joking about this last night. Because every once in a while at one of my events, I'll talk about one of the crypto projects. And someone will go, well, that's just made up. You know, that's just made up. You know, people just made that up. And the only reason, you know, that it even has value is because people think it has value. And I'm like, you mean like the dollar, right? Like it's just made up. And the only reason it has value, you know, it's literally the same. I'm just saying. People are like, I'm so worried about a digital. Oh, we need a break?
Well, no, camera.
How about this? How about this? Hold on. Here's what we'll do. Anybody who needs to go to the bathroom can go to the bathroom, but the first person who gets up, I will make fun of. Okay? So I got you. I'll do it in 4 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. So they said Joseph Stalin, by the way, when he used to come out, they would clap for him for like 45 minutes straight. And I remember thinking, that'd be awesome, man. I'm standing there for 45 minutes. You know? And then I found out later that the rule in Russia at the time was the first person to stop clapping got shot. So literally everybody's like, you know, and then finally Joseph Stalin will put his hand down and that meant you could stop clapping. And I thought, man, one of these days I'm going to try to pull that off. 45 minutes. So I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I'm only going to do 4 minutes now because I just burned a whole minute there. All right, what was I talking about? So investing, multiplying 1,000 times. Oh, this is possible. This is possible in the world that we live in. You understand the way the money operates and the money works. This is all possible. Your job is to help people understand this. Yeah, do it. But how about this? Let's say the person, the example, going back to the person, looping back to the $10 million person. What if the $10 million person, all they did was 10x? Now what do they have? 100 million. Now they can give away what? 10 million, which is $500,000 more than they were originally going to give away when they were going to give away 95%. And now they have what? $90 million to grow, to eat, to sell, to give. Do you understand that mindset? If they do 100x, they have $10 million, they do 100x, where are they at now? They're at $1 billion. Now they just gave away $100 million at 10%. You see where I'm going with this? And now they have $900 million to help us buy Disney, which is as much of a tithe, honestly, as anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want to change the world? You want to change the world? Invest. Do that. Do that. By the way, the kingdom investors that I know right now, the people who really care about the world, are starting to put their money into companies like that. That's the way people are thinking, because enough is enough. You know, we gave away the whole thing for a really long time, and the name was like growing whatever. So I look at it as all mission, okay? So the first thing is help your folks understand all the things that I just said about money, because I will tell you, you'll hear it when people come in. You'll hear people say the 95-5 thing because it was part of the software, okay? And I love the idea of like 10 million, giving away $10 million would be amazing once you get to like, so that you're not at zero again. You follow me on that? If you do, say hoorah. I told you if you get to the end, it'll be okay. Okay. Now, the next part of the discussion I'll do is I want to talk about just some marketing stuff. One of the things I do with my private clients is we sit down, you and I, we work on building a marketing program that attracts people instead of you having to go after people, okay? And there's a huge difference. There's a massive difference. Like, for example, you don't wait in a long line to meet the guru at the bottom of the mountain, right? You wait in a long line to meet the guru at the top of the mountain. And there is a sense in which the more someone is coming to you, the easier it's going to be for you to get them to say yes. You follow me? So you have been chased by people before, you know? And then you met people in row one where you're like, dude, I want to stay connected with this guy. There's a very big difference, right? By the way, for him, I don't know how the math is all going to work out. But if you look at it, so I don't know how much he said his first class ticket was like $2,500. The one I'm flying home was less than that. But let's say it was $2,500. And then Scott invested in me, in having me come and speak here, okay, which wasn't cheap either. I'm not like an expensive speaker. So let's say all in, I'm just going to average it out, and I don't think this is what it was. But let's say all in it's $10,000 before he sees any investment from me, which he will, by the way. I have 40,000, 35,000, 40,000 entrepreneurs roughly, or maybe about 20,000 of the 40,000 are entrepreneurs. I do events with 300 to 500 people. I've got a coaching program where people pay $25,000. Do you feel like I'm going to tell people about him? Yeah, I refer the people that I'm with, okay? And I don't know what an average client is, like an average client, sort of over a lifetime. Just ballpark me. What is an average, over a lifetime, over 10 years? Just for you. I'm talking about like how much would you, humor me, make a number up. I don't care. What do you think it's going to be? So let's say it's $10,000. Okay, so if Scott gets me and one other person, he doubled his investment. Catch that? But like legitimately, I'm not exaggerating. He'll probably get 10 or 20 people from me at some point over the next year to 2 years, something like that. Times 10 that's a wonderful return. You try to put $10,000 and get $200,000 out of the market or whatever. But see, the point I'm making about what he did, the brilliance of it. First of all, he wasn't sitting back in 27B trying to be cheap on his way to success. Second, he invested in the relationship, right? And third, he actually invested in me first before we actually even started working together. All those things mean something, okay? And by virtue of that, now I'm like, he can tell you, because the moment I got here, I'm like, dude, we need to talk about this thing, man. Like, let's get started. I pull up my term life insurance. Can't believe I have that, you know? Jeez. You know, like I'm looking at it this morning, I'm like, I gotta send him a screen capture. This is messed up, you know? So and I'm just saying that all comes out of this idea of being like this welcome guest instead of being a what? Pest. A pest, an annoying pest, okay? And I will say, just so you know, the difference between being an annoying pest and a welcome guest has nothing to do with the product. It has nothing to do with the product. Let me give you an example. You ever been to an event, like a big event where they have a trade show area and all that stuff? You ever been to one of those big events? I speak at those things all the time, right? So there's always this trade show area. It's like 85 times the size of this room, okay? And there's all these booths. You got the software company, you got the people that sell the little products and stuff. It doesn't matter what, like if it's a medical one, like the one I just went to, it's all these like new medical solutions and new like systems that people can use in medical. And everyone's like throwing candy at you. You know, come over and play corner, spin the wheel. Like everyone's trying to get you into their trade show booth. And I don't know about you, but like when I walk through the trade show area, like if I'm at an event, even if it's for an event for people like me, like an entrepreneur event, I walk into the trade show area, I'm like, done. You know what I mean? Hey, here's my card. I'm like, awesome. I'm not going to take that one. Throw that one away. Like, you know how fast I throw cards away? Like, literally, it's like the next trash can card. You know, that guy could probably go to the trash can and get 50 of his cards back out for the next round of people. You know what I mean? That's how much of a waste of time it is. And I'm like, I don't even want to know. Because you know when you walk up to the trade show that they're going to do what? They're going to sell you something. I got this trade show booth. I got to sell you something. Okay, so like they're going to try to sell you something. I don't know about this one, okay? And that's the way I feel when I walk through the trade show booth. But let me give you a different example, okay? What if you went into the event room, right? And this guy walks up on stage. It could be anybody, guy, girl, it doesn't matter. Just say, in this example, this guy walks up on stage, starts teaching, and the stuff that the person's teaching, let's say he's talking about software and how to use software to grow your business, or maybe AI. Like I thought how you described AI was really very accurate and really like very compelling. So let's say somebody's speaking about AI. I'll actually use you as an example. After that talk, I mean, he only had like 35 minutes too. After that talk, where you're like, that sounds like something. Okay, so just you know, he has a service, right? So he technically, you're selling something like the rest of us are, like you are. But after a talk like that, you're like, hey, here's my business card. I'm kind of interested in like, hey, how can we use AI? Like, who wants to create all that content?
Not me.
Like, you know how much content? Oh my goodness, how much content I create. So I was like, it's like, why? Now let's say you go to one of those big events, somebody stand up on stage talking about how to use software to create AI, and you go up afterwards because you thought the talk was really good, and you're like, hey, that was a really good talk. Thank you for that. Can I ask you one question? You ask them one question about the talk, and they answer your question, and then the guy who was speaking goes, oh, hey, by the way, I'm bringing a couple friends of mine over to dinner in a minute or two. You want to just go with this? It sounds like your business is awesome. I'd love to talk to you more about it. You're like, I'd love to go to dinner. Next thing you know, you're sitting at dinner with the speaker, asking the speaker some more questions, and then the speaker's like, hey, so I have this software. It uses AI to help you grow your business. I'd love to give you a trial run at it and just see what you think. You're like, oh, that'd be awesome. The speaker just gave me a trial run of the software. Now, what's the difference between the trade show? It's the same thing. The trade show person's like, would you like a trial run of the software? The speaker's like, would you like a trial run of the software? And in one case, you're like, I don't want a trial run of your software. The next case, you're like, that's awesome. That's awesome. I can do the trial. I love you, man. Here, just exchange information. What's the difference? With the product, none. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. But in one case, they're coming to you, And in the other case, you're going to them. Do you see the difference? Yeah. Okay, so as much as you can, create a business or a system where people come to you, okay? By the way, this is nothing other than called positioning. You've probably heard this term before, right? Positioning. It's how you are positioned to the client. Is that me bumping or is that somebody else? That's me. That's me right here bumping. Normally I do this like a little bit different. So people come to you. I'm going to give you at least 3 different ways to encourage people to come to you. There are more. I'm just going to give you a couple and maybe some supporting arms kind of things to help you do this. Okay. Does anybody want to guess? Maybe not even the 3 that I'm guessing. Can anyone tell me some different ways to position yourself?
Be a speaker.
Thank you. That is the first one. Who said that? You, Mark. So speaking. By the way, speaking is pound for pound, hour for hour, the single best way to get business, period, dot, doesn't matter. Look, it is the best. You know, the moment you stand up here, it doesn't matter what kind of failed kindergarten, former fighter pilot, you know what I'm saying? The moment you get a microphone, people are like, he probably knows what he's talking about. I could be making all this up. I could be making all this up. I just read all this morning on some blog, some business blog. Be like, I'm going to teach you what I read on the business. I could do that, you know, and I'm not doing that, you know. But I could do that. Because the moment that you start speaking, people are like, oh, that must be a what? That must be an expert. She must be an authority on this particular topic. Now, does it mean that they are? Maybe, maybe not. I've seen some speakers that I was like, oh, you know, but when you there's a positioning, okay, where people are starting to come to you. What's another one?
Marketing.
What about one I gave away yesterday? A book? Just so you know, how many of you have written a book? How many of you want to write a book? You better stick your hand up, okay? A book is nothing, nowadays a book is nothing more than a Word document with a cover. You know, like by the way, this privatized banking book, which is a really good book. I hope you guys read this stuff because I'm reading all this stuff right now. This book here, this is a great book. That's not even that brilliant of a cover. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're looking on Amazon, like Garrett Gunderson, who I know Garrett has really nice covers if you look at Garrett's books. But this book is similar to what Garrett writes, more content, frankly, in this. Like Garrett's telling stories and stuff. I mean, I don't understand what he's doing. I'm not saying there's anything. I'm just saying there's more detail and content in here. But the cover, I would not buy this on Amazon. So I'm just saying, like all you have to do is put some of your ideas down and put a cover on it, and now you're a what? Now you're an author. By the way, best business card ever. Like Scott and I met on the airplane. A week later in his mailbox is my book, right? Literally, like a week later. Hey man, it was awesome meeting you. Love to get to know you a little bit better. Here's a book. I said, you want too? Yeah, you did. You know, when Mark and I got on Zoom, I said, hey man, I'll send you a book. You send a business card through the mail is a little weird, you know? You send a book through the mail, someone actually knows. Now, here's the truth about books. Like, something like 90-some% of the people never even open. You know there's books, like, have you ever read, there's a book published, it's called Everything Men Know About Women, but then you open it, and what's inside?
Nothing.
It's all blank pages, okay? You can buy that book. There's like the many accomplishments of the Clinton administration, all right? It's like, so you can name Reagan out, put in your president there. I don't mean to be political, I'm just saying you pick. So I'm not joking when I tell you 95% of the books that I've given away, they could have been blank. For the benefit of the book was the person holding it and going, oh, that's you. That's the thing. It's just a positioning tool. You with me on that? So yeah, like it should be okay what you write inside, but it doesn't need to be Pulitzer Prize winning stuff. I'm not telling you to create things that aren't excellent. Like if you read God Talks, it's a really good book. Well edited, I had 4 editors, okay, but it reads well, the stories are good and stuff like that. And by the way, book also, if you want to know, just write some stories. You know, like if you read my book, the stuff in the book that people always comment on are the stories. The stuff in my talks that everybody comments on are the stories. Why? Because we are a storytelling culture. You know, that's the way that we remember things. I'm not even exaggerating. I will have people, I had a guy, oh my goodness, this is great. One of the first talks I ever gave was in 2007. It was to a group of basketball referees. It was Pac-10 referees, back when the Pac-10 was called the Pac-10. About 70, 80 of the referees. This guy, Dave, who was in that group back in 2007, like a year ago, he came up to me and he goes, oh man, that talk, you gave. Okay, so it was 16 years later. He's like, that talk you gave. He goes, and that story you told. I told the carrier, remember the carrier story I told you yesterday? I told that then too. I've been telling that story a lot. Okay, so he said, that story you told the carrier, and he went on to describe that story in perfect detail. 16 years later. And then I was like, Dave, do you remember what I talked about that day? And he's like, no, but that story about that. Okay, he didn't remember any of the content, but he did remember the story. That's the way people's brains work. That's how people hard code. Okay, what's another? I'll give you another one. I'll call this a positioned intro. So, like when Scott comes out to my event, I'm going to stand up on stage and I'm going to tell people a story about how a Chase Bank. And then I'm going to tell the story about, I'm going to tell like 4 or 5 minutes about how money works, right? If you borrow money, you're going to pay this. If you use your own money, you're going to pay this. Basic stuff. I've been listening. You know what I'm saying? Like I know how to explain it now. And then I'm going to say, you have 2 choices. You can be part of that system or you can go create your own bank. You create your own bank, it's going to cost you $20 million, or it's free if you talk to Scott. You know? You're going to need insurance anyway, so he'll take care of that for you as well. Do you think that people will go talk to him? Yeah, because he's if he's Ed's guy, the assumption, and I'm not, in this case it's true, but the assumption, if I'm referring the person, what does that person assume? That he's vetted, that he's good at what he does, that he's ethical, all those things. That's true. But it's not always, like, sometimes when you get an introduction, that's not, like, I've had intros from buddies of mine that like 3 months later, I was like, dude, you need to stop referring to that guy. You know, like you ever have one of those intros where you're like, this guy, my buddy Mike, my buddy Mike in San Diego, he had a software company, he sold for millions of dollars. And I would always ask Mike for referrals. I need a good SEO guy. I need a good ads person. I need a good Facebook person. And I used to always take his referrals because I was like, Mike has the best referrals. But then I started to reverse engineer and I realized everyone Mike introduced me to was a complete turd, okay? And then after a while, I stopped taking Mike's. I'm like, are you sure that's the right guy? Because it doesn't seem like you have good people in your life, okay? But it took me a long time, you know? So if somebody that you know, like, and trust introduces you, that's a positioned intro. It's different than you being like, hey, take my business card. Hey, take my business card. Okay, that's a positioned intro. And by the way, this is true also, like for example, if you have a video on YouTube that someone watches and goes, oh man, that was good. That was really good. Like Scott's got a video, it's like a 10-minute video, and it essentially lays out the basic top-line principles of infinite banking. You say like a car, if you're gonna buy a car for $30,000, you're gonna pay this. If you wanna pay your, like it's basics, okay? But that's a really good start. If somebody sees that and reaches out to Scott, now they're like, oh dude, I'm talking to the guy from the video. You see how that works, okay? So one more thing about this, and then I'll just tell you how to get these, and then we'll start to wrap it up. So, so when it comes to position intro, this is the reason why I can't stand, and I mean this when I say this, I can't stand non-positioned networking. Okay, so non-positioned networking, like you were talking about BNI, like BNI is like, you know, everybody's shoving their business cards to everybody, and you don't even know who anyone is. And the question you get like 50 times, what's the question? What's the question everyone asks? Oh, so tell me, what do you do? And they're not even asking. They're like, so you answer something really quickly so I can tell you about me. That's really what they're saying, just so you know. They're like, so tell me, what do you do? They don't even care. It's like, no. Now I'm going to tell you about me, okay? So and I don't mean to be so horrible about that. I think I do, actually. So that is a non-positioned intro. If you have a non-positioned intro, that happens sometimes. I'm not saying that it's not going to happen. You do it, that speaker yesterday, I can't remember his name, when he started saying, I help business owners like you. He said not to say like you, but I like to say like you. I help business owners like you maximize their wealth, grow their thing, whatever you say. Say something that talks about them. Did you catch what I just said? So if somebody asks you in non-position intro, what do you do? Don't talk about you, talk about them. You catch that? So people say to me, what do you do? I say, I help heart-centered, abundance-minded entrepreneurs like you to increase their income, have a bigger impact, and take more time off. So how long did it take in my sentence to talk about someone else? I help, now here we go, heart-centered, abundance-minded entrepreneurs like you make more money, have a bigger impact, and take more time off. Boom. Just like that, I'm talking about them. So if you're in non-position intro, you're in a situation where the person wants you to talk about them, I say, all right, I'll talk about you. Okay, now, if you're in a positioned intro, what question do you never get asked? Like, for example, yesterday I spoke at lunchtime, it was like 12:30, and then we all went up to the mountain on the that cable car took a long time to come down, by the way. Didn't that thing take after a while, I was like, I'm gonna sit here and sort of look how far. So it was like, I don't know who they were getting off, okay? But when it came down, I don't know why I said that, but it was great, right? Dinner up on the thing, beautiful sunset, like, oh yeah, you timed it. It was perfect. I don't know how you were like, this is the day. So awesome sunset, the Smoky Mountains, we're missing a letter, but it still says Smoky, okay? And then it's like up there, and then here's one question I never got last night. I talked to almost all of you last night. Here's one question I didn't get last night, which is what? So tell me, I didn't get the question. Why?
Because you'd already been introduced.
It's already been introduced. The video play does the bio. Scott did an introduction. I came up and talked. We were already positioned. Now I wasn't really selling you anything yesterday. You know, I can do that if you want me to. I can do it. I can do it right now if you want me to. I wasn't selling you anything, but if I was moving people like potentially into a conversation about potentially becoming a client, it would have been a lot easier for me because I already had that one question answered. Do you understand that? So how do you get, other than speaking, writing a book, stuff like that, or social media or videos or anything like that, how do you get a positioned intro? How do you get it?
Referrals.
You get it through a referral. Okay, how many of you get business through referrals? Stick your hand up, stick it up, stick it up. You're probably everybody, right? How many most of your business is through referrals? Okay, so whenever I have a client who says most of my business comes through referrals, I always ask this next question in the exact same way. I say, what do you do on a month-by-month basis to stimulate referrals? So I've had dentists and doctors and chiropractors and financial advisors. I've had probably 40 financial advisors in my coaching program. I had every service-based industry you can think of. And I've probably had 150 people out of the 600 clients that I work with who are in a service industry like that, like the one that you're in. And of the 150, how many of them said most of their business comes through referrals? What do you think? 149, basically all of them. And of the 149, I said, so what do you do on a month-by-month basis to stimulate referrals? What did 147 of them say?
Nothing.
Well, you know, we're just really blessed. You know, we just get our people. I'm like, you know, you saying you're blessed is not a system. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't go up in my airplane and get into the clouds, and people go, and then all of a sudden I have vertigo, and they're like, how did you get out of vertigo? I'm like, I just am so blessed. I had a system. Trust your instruments. I was trained in a system, okay? So you want to go out of business really quickly, just, you know, we just have great. So if you want referrals, you should do what? You should ask people for referrals, okay? And I'm going to tell you what I do. You can do it however you want to, but I'm just going to tell you what I do, okay? I don't say, could you just give me some referrals? Because that sounds a little wonky, okay? So what I do, oh man, I wasn't even going to teach this. You guys want the extra? You want the extra stuff? You can do say hoorah. I wasn't even going to teach it. Didn't know if I had time for it, but you're going to get extra, all right? So there is a scale. This is excitement over you, and this is time, all right? So when the person doesn't know you, what is their excitement about you? Nothing. When the person meets you or introduced to you, this is their excitement. Then they have an initial conversation. They become a suspect. I like that. Then they become a prospect. Then they sign up with you. And then maybe like a year later, something happens in their life, or they look at the numbers, or something happens and they send you an email and they're really excited. Do you get that email from people? So thankful that I found you. It's so much easier working with you. I'm just so blessed. Like that email. Do you know what I'm talking about? When someone says that on the phone, or when they say that to you. That's sort of this moment right here. Now, everything after this moment is like this. It's not as high as that. It's just not zero. You follow me? It doesn't drop off. I'll just say like 20 years from now, they're not as excited that they met you that they were in the moment when they had whatever breakthrough it was. So when would right here be a really good time to ask for a referral? Right here, okay? So that would be the place to do it. Now, how do you do it? Can you give me a referral? No. Could you write on a piece of paper? Some people are like, here's a piece of paper. Put your friend's name down there. and I'm just going to text them out of the blue, and they'll be like, what? You know, just write your friend's contact info, and I'm going to stalk them. They don't know who I am. Out of the blue, I'm going to start texting and calling them, and don't worry, they'll be happy that I did, okay? You ever had that? We're like, hey, you know, your friend Rob wanted me to delete and mark as spam, Rob, okay? Nobody wants to get out of the blue, okay? So check it out. What you say, here's the phrase that I use. This is the phrase that I used for like 10 years. Buddy of mine, his name is Bill Cates. He originally came up with this. Bill Cates is literally the referral coach. You know Bill Cates? I've known Bill for a long, long time. Bill got me into National Speakers Association. I lasted a year, okay? It was not a good fit for me, but I know Bill really well. Does anybody know what Bill says? It's really simple, really simple. He says, do you think maybe you and I can brainstorm one or two people that might benefit from what I do? So simple. I've been using that for years. So someone's like, I just had a client reach out. They went from $6 million to $14 million last year. So $6 million when they showed up with me, then they were making 14 after working with me for a year. It wasn't all because of me, even though I'm taking credit for it, okay? Most of it, okay? They were smart enough to sign up with me. I'll put it to you that way. I'm just kidding. They did a lot themselves. They were heading in that direction. But they're like, hey man, we just looked at our numbers and we did $14 million last year. And I was like, man, that is amazing. And they said, we owe all the credit to you. And I said, you take all the credit. You guys were the ones that implemented. They're like, we love you, Ed. If there's anything we can do. And I said, I love working with good people like you. I said, maybe you and I could just brainstorm maybe one or two people who may benefit from what I do. And when you say brainstorm, their brain starts to storm. But when you say one or two, it gives the subconscious a target. So when you say, do you know anyone? The brain's like, I don't know anyone. But if you say one or two people, you will literally see their eyes go, doop, 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 and then they'll be like this. They will say the same thing every time, literally every time. They'll go, oh man, it's crazy. I was just talking to my friend Jim about you. I was just talking to my friend Tracy about you. I'm not kidding you. When they say that, don't laugh. And be like, Ed told me that's exactly what they would say, because it's exactly what they say. It's crazy. I was just talking to my friend. Then you say, if you wouldn't mind making an introduction via text or email, I'll take it from there. Now, you've had those intros too, right? Where you're like, hey Jim, it's Ed. I wanted to introduce you to my really good friend Scott. I just started working with Scott on the financial side. I know that you're interested in getting this taken care of. Scott's super busy, so he may not be able to get back to you this week, and he only works with really high-end clients, but I think that you guys would be great together. And then I make the intro, and Scott does what? He says, hey, thanks, Ed. I'll take it to another string. He takes it to another string. Now I'm out of it for the most part, and now he's working that thing. Now go back to that text message. What did I say in the text message? There's two things that are important in the text message. I said, Scott's
Super busy.
really busy, and he only works with the high-end clients. Okay, so why did I say that? I said it because I know what I'm doing when I write intros, but most people don't. So why would someone else write that?
Well, you let him off the hook for contacting.
Right. So the first thing is okay. So when I get an intro, when someone's like, hey, I want to refer my friend Sally Ann to your coaching, I say, I'd love to talk to Sally Ann. Just make an intro. I'll take it from there. Please just tell Sally Ann two things. So make sure she knows I'm really busy and I won't be able to get back to her this week, but I will get back to her. And second, just understand the level of the program that we're talking about, because I don't want anybody having sticker shock. I always tell them it's $25,000, okay? Because I don't want people to be, I had a phone call with a guy once who got referred. He's like, I've always wanted to coach, you know? And I'm like, well, let's talk about that. And we talked about it, he's like, so what does it typically run? And I said, well, you know, it's either $2,500 a month for 11 months or it's $25,000. And the sound on the other end of the phone, for like 10 seconds, I thought he was choking. And then I thought maybe he had like fallen on something. And I just realized he thought I was like, you know, the coach person that sits at Starbucks for $25 an hour is like, tell me about your dreams and goals, you know? He thought I was like, oh, let me hold you accountable to your vision. You know, that's not the kind of coaching I do. The kind of coaching I do is I'm like, that's how you make another $1 million. Do it, you know? That's totally different. So anyway, to avoid that, I say when I do my intros, I say, look, tell them I'm really busy, and I'll get back to them, but I won't be till next week. And tell them that either high end or that I'm very expensive. Oftentimes they'll just say he's really expensive. So now, if the person gets on the phone, they know two things. Number one, I'm the person you wait in the line for, because I'm not going to get back to them right away. I will beat the week, right? So if they say it's going to be a week or so until he gets back to you, I'll beat it by like 3 days. I'll be like 4 days. But one thing I'm not going to do is not right away. You understand what I'm talking about? So why not right away? Let me just put it to you this way. If you got introduced to Warren Buffett, You know, I don't know if Warren Buffett has a phone, but like, assuming he does, like, you know, I don't know if everybody's ever, what's up, Warren? BlackBerry or something. So like, whatever. Somebody's phone rang the other day. It was like, that's what I picture. He's like dials the, you know, cell. Okay, so hey, you know, maybe there's something to that. By the way, I'm making fun of the guy, but he's only worth like what, $34 billion or something. Maybe you should get rid of your phone. Okay, if you got an intro to Warren Buffett, and like he called you right after the intro, you'd be like, is this really Warren Buffett or is this a practical joke, right? Because Warren Buffett doesn't call people right back, right? He probably set an appointment a month from now. And you look at it in the calendar and you're like, okay, don't miss that. Gotta make sure that I'm there a month from now. That's the way you would look at it, because that intro was what kind of intro? A positioned intro, okay? Is that helpful? If it is, say hoorah. All right, cool. I went into some more of the details on that stuff today. All right, we got like 5-7 minutes. Anybody have any questions before I land this airplane? Just so you know, so I'm flying out here pretty soon. Like, I'm gonna talk and high five you a little bit, and then I'm gonna drive back to Knoxville. So one of the reasons I give you my email address is because I do feel like staying connected to you. I don't give my email address at the end of presentations pretty much ever. I haven't done that for years. But you're more than welcome if you want to just send me an email just to connect. And also, if you send me an email, tell me one thing about you that nobody else knows. Like don't tell me like your problem. I'm saying like you were like a trapeze artist in high school or something interesting. You know what I'm saying? Don't tell. Look, I told him yesterday, man. So I wrote this book, and the subtitle is "How to Have a Friendship with God Even If You've Made a Million Mistakes." And I didn't do this on purpose, but the moment I put that subtitle, "Even If You've Made a Million Mistakes," people started telling me their stories. Let me tell you what, like Scott was very, very transparent yesterday morning. I just really honor how you did that, by the way. That is not easy to do, just so you know. That is not easy to tell people like your stuff, okay? What I was telling him is I said, after I started getting all these emails, I realized like his story is everybody's story. Not the details. Everybody's got their own version of it. But I will tell you, I've worked literally with tens of thousands of people, and I've heard 1,000 stories. And most of the stories are something like, here's how I screwed up my life. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. Most people are living under the delusion or the lie that somehow they've messed up, or they've made too big a mistake, or they ruined, or they're behind, and it's all a total lie. All the good people are thinking that. Just, you know, the bad people aren't. You know, the people that are in charge of the country aren't like, oh, you know, I just feel like I've ruined my life. No, they don't even think about it, okay? Honestly, it's the strangest thing. All the good people are like holding themselves back from the success that God wants to give you because of some belief that you messed up, right? And all the bad people are like, don't care. And so they're taking everything while the rest of us are like, I'm not worthy. And one of the exercises in God Talks is the God Talks of asking God questions about money. And when I do this exercise live in front of an audience, and I'll invite you guys all to my next event. When I do this in front of an audience, about 60 to 70% of the people, the first lie that they've been believing about money. Anybody want to guess what the biggest lie is? Biggest lie. Most people believe about money. Anyone?
There's not enough.
They don't need it.
Those are all ones. Biggest lie. I'm not worthy. Number one thing people write down. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. And I'm like, you are a son or a daughter of God. Yeah. For crying out loud. Like, remember the story of the prodigal son? Yes. Even after, like people, I understand stewardship. I'm not making fun of this concept. But people are like, I just want to be a good steward. And I'm like, did you understand? That guy was not in any way. And when he got done not being a good steward, he got a huge hug and a party. You follow me on that? The worst financial manager and the worst son ever described comes back and gets a hug and a party. So if you're thinking that you messed up somehow, or like you totally screwed your life up, well, guess what? You go back and get a hug and then have a party and then get back on your mission. You know what I'm saying? And I appreciate you sharing that story. I will tell you, in my experience, everyone has that story. So if you hear that story, just know everyone's got their own thing. Okay, and when I started writing this book, people started telling, like, I had this dinner with this guy. I'll tell you this, and then I'll start wrapping it up. I had this dinner with this guy who had read my book. He's like this very successful entrepreneur, probably worth about $10 million, two outlets up in Pacific Northwest. And we sat at this nice restaurant in this place, and he sat down and he said, just so you know, I am not a good man. I have not been a good man. And I'm like, dude, welcome to the club. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is how people start conversations with me now that I wrote that book. You know, I'm like, first of all, everybody says that to me. Everybody. You know, it's not, I said, second, like, welcome to the prodigal son club. You know, now it's time for the party. Okay? And we had a really nice dinner, and he felt really good afterwards, and now he's back on mission. Okay? My point there is, first of all, if you haven't read the book, read the book. Second, if you, when you read the book, there are exercises in the book. There are 6 exercises, audio exercises. I created them all by myself. If you want to know, every day, every single day, I'm not exaggerating. When I get on the airplane, I did one this morning, and when I get on the airplane, heading to Atlanta, I will put my headphones on, because I'm not going to talk to the guy next to me, obviously. I'm going to put my headphones on, and I will do what I call a God talk. I've created about 15, 20 audios that literally are music with the background and a conversation with God. I teach you how to ask questions and journal the answers, okay? If you want to break through any kind of software training that you've been having in the background, you put those on and you go for it. I've got an online community that's amazing. That's not free, but you can always join that if you want to. If you're interested, by the way, I should say this because it would be helpful for you. It's 2 products. I've got like 5 different products. 2 products I have one called the Secret Weapon, which is a communication and persuasion system. It goes into the highest levels of how to communicate in a loving way. By the way, the best communication is always based in love because you understand the person's needs and you have empathy for them and what they want. And the best way to communicate is through empathy, but if you communicate, like I gave you some little communication tools. If you want, if you're interested in that program, I will give you half off of that. Just email me. And I do have another program called Top Gun Speaker. If anyone's interested in learning how to be a little better on the stage or how to communicate in such a way to get people, I'll give you half off that one, so you just have to email me. I'll do some kind of a good deal for you. I do have an event in July called Wisdom for Business, where you literally sit for 3 days. I teach for 3 days, but you sit there and I have exercises, 5 different exercises throughout the day. Those days where you journal about your business with God. So most people in business begin by faith, but go on by works. Remember Paul said that, having begun by faith. Most people are like this, God, what business should I be in? God, I want to follow you. All right, now when it comes to getting customers, I got to do that because God's not interested in that. Just, you know, he's got like the hair on your head counted, but not just yours too. Okay, the eyebrows and stuff. So I'm gonna get one of these days I'm gonna walk up on stage and it's all gonna fall out and God's gonna be like, I told you, stop making fun of it. So I'm just kidding, it's not gonna happen. So if he knows the hairs on your head and he knows the hairs on everyone's head who ever lived, he also understands about the details of your business, not just the big things, not just how much you give. I'm talking about like phone call to phone call, email to email. God is interested in conversations about the details. He's a really good dad. Okay, and he's a phenomenal business partner, really good business partner, especially if you're trying to raise money. Okay, so like really good to have God in your corner when it comes to that stuff. And one of the biggest mistakes that good entrepreneurs make is they talk to God about the really big things, but not about the really small things. And in the exercise, you're literally journaling, who's my ideal customer? What are my best marketing avenues? What's my ideal schedule look like? And you're hearing from God about those things, not just about some dude that you saw on Instagram. Okay, and it's really helpful to do that. And if you want to come to that event, I'll give you a really good deal too. Okay? All right, that's it. So I've got like just a couple more minutes. Anybody have any comments or thoughts or questions? Real quick. And then I got to go catch an airplane. What do you got? Yes, ma'am.
I really enjoyed your training. It's been amazing. Thank you so much, and thank you for sowing this seed into our business.
Cool. Oh, thank you for saying that. Those are the best questions. Did you hear what you just did? You're welcome to ask a question like that too if you'd like. What is your name?
Donna Ruffin.
Okay, Donna. All right, cool. Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I
Yeah.
want to tag off hers too because.
Okay, come on. We got more time now. 10 minutes now.
The balance part has always bothered me. It's always felt like we were watering it down when we're trying to teach it. So that was really good because I am one of those good Sunday school girls that always felt like it wasn't supposed to be that way, that we weren't supposed to think about business. So my poor husband, I've probably been doing that with him. And that was really good, so thank you.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Very good paradigm shift.
So can I share something with you that I feel like God just wants to like say to you real quick? Is that okay if I say it? You guys okay if I just do this real quick? So as you were talking, I just saw first of all, God wants to promote you, and you have like a heart for girls. You have a heart for like girls, and I don't know your background, but there's something in the background that you just really have a passion for, like helping people like be safe out of that. So just go for it. Okay, go for it. You don't have to wait for anything. Just go for it. So hopefully that hits home. Yes, sir.
I had a question because you list these and then you got all of us in the room. Would you say everybody go out, write a book, everybody go out,
Yeah.
speak, everybody.
Yeah, but you don't have to do it like right now. So I would just say like
every single one of us, like, become that.
I mean, I wrote one book. I wrote I went from idea to published in 21 days. That's a book online called 21 Day Miracle. The other book, it took me a year and a half. And even after a year and a half, I was still in a conversation with God. And he's like, do another event. I'm like, but I want to launch this book. And I just took the time needed to do it. And so you should never, sometimes as entrepreneurs, it's like, if you give a boy a hammer, everything looks like a nail, My little boys found my nails and my hammer one day. And I'm not even kidding you, they put 120 nails into the side of this tree. The tree is still alive. It is not happy about it though. It was all like bleeding sap and everything. And I was like, guys, this is like God's organic creation. You're killing this thing, And I was like, yeah, because when you give a boy a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And sometimes as an entrepreneur, if the speaker just said, do social media, do AI, do a book, do speaking, you're like, okay, now I have like 4 more things on my to-do list. You don't. This is why I always tell people to start with a conversation with God, because he'll start to unfold timing. And the timing may be a year or 2 from now. And the timing may be literally like start writing.
So do you mind if I ask them, like, how do you form your book? And if you
Yeah.
would say, I mean, we can't all write on the same exact topic.
You actually can.
Could.
So, because everybody's got their own personality and everyone's got their own story. And like, how many investing books are out there?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a good friend of mine is getting Phil Town. You guys know Phil is Rule 1 investing. Phil learned from a guy who learned at the feet essentially of Warren Buffett. And he got $1 million advance for his book. And Phil's book on investing is one of like a million investing books, but there's room in the space for it. And there's like 1 or 2, there's literally one book that has the word infinite banking in the title, and all the rest kind of talk about it. But I'm just saying, like, if you go searching on the internet, it's a keyword zone where there's like very little action.
Yeah, but
Like I've gone looking for it, there's not a lot. That's what I'm saying, like nobody knows about you, Whose fault is that?
That's a goal.
Whose responsibility is that? Whose opportunity is that? You know what I'm saying? So like, go for it if you want to. Yeah, there's no, and it's just, we live in such an abundant world. You'll never run out of people to read. And here's the other thing too. A person who reads a book about infinite banking is way more likely to read a what? A book about infinite banking. You know what I'm saying? Do you ever get really interested in a topic and you're like, that's it, I'm just gonna read one book. Nothing else. You read all the books. So my point is, you've all read a book that just makes your space better. Not competitive, it makes it better. So,
Thank you.
Awesome. Yep, we'll do this one and then I'll wrap up. Yeah.
So earlier, I think when I met Renee personally, and she asked me this great question. And she asked, how does God speak to you? How do you feel God? How do you experience God? And I kind of fumbled through my first question, answer. But I'm going through some stuff at home. And in the back of my mind, I was thinking about the 3 parables that you used today. And that's always been in my head. And so you just confirmed it too.
Oh, really? Good. Good.
That's awesome.
And can I share with you kind of like how I share with her? So just let God father you for a little while too. Sometimes you get into like, you're a very purposeful person, I can tell. Sometimes you get into like, how do I do this like right away? Maybe just retreat, not in work, but I'm just saying personally, and lean on him just a little bit and let him begin to unfold some of those things for you. So I'm not saying this, I'm just telling you what I'm seeing when I'm kind of praying for you. So much of your life, I'm just saying this. You felt like if somebody did something for you, you felt like, oh, I'm gonna like give them something back.
Yeah.
Somebody gave you something and they were gonna give them back. God's gonna give something to you, he doesn't want anything, just let him give to you. You follow me on that one? Some of that is just, he's teaching you, he's hitting you, I can tell this is great. So he's just teaching you to receive. Because when you receive something, like I have a 5-year-old daughter, and I just gave her this whole set of chalk. She likes chalking on the driveway. So I gave my daughter this chalking thing, and I didn't ask for anything in return, and I didn't even care. She didn't say thank you, by the way. I gave her this box, and she just ran out and started chalking. She didn't even say thank you. I'm like, I didn't say thank you. It didn't bother me. I'm just kidding about that. And I just love her, and because I love her, like I don't chalk. She does, because I love her, and she's interested in that. So I feel like what God's trying to teach you right now is just to receive it. You keep trying to get back to him. He just wants you to do that right now, because he's trying to be a dad, not like it's different than stewardship, by the way. There's nothing wrong with stewardship. I'm not making fun of stewardship. Stewardship is relating to God as a what? As a servant. And that's one of the options available to you. You can be a sheep, you can be a servant, you can be a son, you can be a daughter, you can be a friend, you can be a partner, you can be a lover. Those are all on the scale of options. But sometimes God invites you into a different space, and sometimes being a steward isn't what he's asking you to do. Sometimes he's just asking you to be a daughter, which is what he's asking you to do. Does that make sense? Steward always has to make sure is everything okay? But a daughter doesn't. And there's different, I'm not saying that this is a wrong one. I'm just saying for you in your time of life, this is the new one. Does that make sense? Cool. Thanks for the permission to do that, by the way. Sometimes you just gotta go. So that's fun. Let me just pray. I'll pray for you real quick, and then we'll wrap it up. Is that cool? Thank you, Lord. We just pray your blessing on this amazing group of people, Lord, that they would just move into a place where they're helping people multiply by 10, by 100, or even by 1,000. In the room is the foundation for the future of this country, by the way. It's interesting. Hang with me for a second. So what God's just starting to show me as we're praying right now, all the things that I just mentioned about Disney, about the New York Times, all those things, the foundation for that is literally here. I hope you understand. I don't know how many people are, 20, 25 people. It only takes this size of a group. There were only 12 of the apostles originally. So it was not even that big of a movement. It was a very small little movement, but it only takes a small group of people to really move things as long as you believe in what you're doing and you're willing to risk it a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Just push it a little bit when you get out there. But I literally see the country is going into a financial spot that's particularly difficult. I think you all know that, right? Like you can't okay, so like if you throw something in the air, it'll do what? It'll come down. We live in a world where people go, no, I'm gonna throw it in the air, and I don't believe in gravity, so it's just gonna keep going. And you're like, well, guess what? It's probably gonna come down, you know what I mean? So we're in a space where we have an administration that is saying, well, here, we'll say this, and then it's true. But just because they say it doesn't mean it's true. It's just that they're saying it. And so because of that, obviously we're gonna have some financial, your job in that spot is to be hope. Because people will come to you. So just be hope, because there is hope. Really, a lot of hope, but that's your job. It's so interesting. I was just journaling in the back. That was what God said to me. And I was like, it's interesting, now that's for you too. So people will come to you with their questions. Your job is to be a daughter for a while, and then hope. Your job is to communicate. So thank you for the permission to do that, by the way. I know that's sometimes a little strange to get somebody saying something. Thank you, Lord. And may the Lord bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you, and grace you. Amen. Thank you, Scott. Come on.